It was a crisp winter afternoon in the early 1980s. 37-year-old Janet Smurl was alone in her basement, loading the washing machine, when a soft, mocking whisper broke the silence, calling her name. Janet and her husband Jack were a devout Catholic couple. Like many families in Pennsylvania at the time, they were focused on work, their faith, and providing a stable life for their 4 young daughters. But their stability had been hard-won. In 1972, Hurricane Agnes decimated their town, burying the Smurls' original home under 12 feet of floodwater and forcing them to start over from nothing. To rebuild, Jack and Jack partnered with Jack's parents, John and Mary. They purchased a large, older duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, a move that allowed 2 generations of the family to live under one roof and share the financial burden. By anchoring their entire extended family to this single property, they believed they were creating a permanent sanctuary. They had no idea they were moving into what would become an inescapable trap. The disturbances began with minor, frustrating anomalies. Jack's mother, Mary, discovered a large, greasy stain in the center of a brand new rug. No matter how many times she scrubbed it, the wet spot would inexplicably reappear just days later. The activity soon targeted household electronics. Appliances would smoke or short-circuit without warning. This escalated dangerously one evening when Jack was sitting alone watching a movie, and his television set suddenly burst into flames. These events were accompanied by sensory disturbances that seemed trapped within the walls. Loud, rhythmic banging would echo through the rooms at night, often followed by a thick, sulfurous odor that would linger for hours with no clear source. At the time, the Smurls dismissed these occurrences as the quirks of an aging, rundown house. They didn't realize they were witnessing the opening stages of a much more invasive town line. As activity intensified, the family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren. The famous demonologists arrived at the Chase Street duplex to investigate firsthand. After touring the property, Lorraine claimed to sense 4 distinct entities: an elderly woman, a violent younger woman, a hostile man, and a primary controlling demon directing the others. According to the Warrens, this demonic entity had a specific motive. It was using the family's ambient fear and exhaustion as a power source, draining their energy like a battery to gain enough strength to manifest physically. The Warrens categorized demonic activity into 4 distinct stages: infestation, oppression, possession, and death. Based on the violent malfunctions, Ed Warren concluded the family had moved past infestation and was already in the oppression phase. Journeyman outside experts gave the family's nightmare a formal name, but it also cemented their growing sense of helplessness against the forces in their home. The activities soon turned into direct physical violence. The family dog was lifted and thrown across the room, and a 4-foot lighting fixture was ripped from the ceiling, crashing down onto their daughter, Shannon. The violence peaked in the master bedroom. Jack woke up completely paralyzed as a disfigured entity with scaly skin and red eyes crawled up the bed and assaulted him, while Janet lay in a trance-like sleep. Desperate for a reprieve, the family packed their camper van and fled to a campsite, hoping that leaving the house would stop the attacks. But the peace was short-lived. On the first night, Jack spotted a young girl in a colonial dress staring at him from the surrounding woods. She smiled at him before vanishing, proving the entity had followed them. The entity was no longer tethered to the physical property in West Pittston. By appearing at the campsite, it demonstrated it was now attached to the family members themselves. With the church hesitant to act, the Smurls took their story to the press. They hoped that a media spotlight would force the Scranton Diocese to authorize an official exorcism. Instead, it triggered a global media frenzy. Their quiet street was swarmed by strangers and reporters, causing their neighbors to turn against them and ending their isolation in the most chaotic way possible. Local skeptics pointed to the town's history of decades-old mining infrastructure. The settling of water-filled mine shafts beneath the property could explain the banging sounds, while a faulty sewer line was known to release foul-smelling gas into the area. Psychologists also pointed to Jack Smurl's 1983 brain surgery. They suggested the medical trauma could have triggered hallucinations in Jack, which then seeded a shared hysteria among the rest of the family. This creates a divide between the subjective terror the family reported and the objective, physical explanations offered by the town. It forces us to ask if the threat was truly paranormal or if it was the result of a shared psychological collapse. Under immense public pressure, the church finally authorized a formal, multi-group exorcism. Priests and prayer groups filled the duplex in an intense effort to cleanse the property. The intervention seemed to work. The banging stopped, the smells vanished, and for the first time in years, the family experienced a few weeks of total silence. The Smurls used this brief window to leave. Aided by the financial proceeds from a book and television movie about their case, they finally moved away from Chase Street forever. Since they left, several different owners have lived in the duplex. None of them have ever reported any strange or violent activity in the home. The house is now quiet. But if the entity was truly attached to the people rather than the place, it didn't disappear. It simply moved on. And we are left to wonder who it is watching now.